Marhaba and welcome to Mondays with Manal. Today we're going to talk about a topic that came up in a class I was teaching last week about networking. There are so many nuances when it comes to networking, and it was very interesting to me. We were having quite a deep conversation about sort of the perception of what the definition of networking is, how that is combined or impacted by different personality types and behavioral types. And I feel now more than ever, it is so important to be methodical and purposeful and engaging because we are shifting in our networking approach as workplaces are shifting. What was interesting is this big misconception came from having this idea that networking is walking into this large room filled with strangers and you're going to walk in there and strike up conversations, and it's overwhelming. It can create social anxiety. How do you do it? And yes, that is a form of networking, but networking really happens in your day-to-day, and it comes in smaller forms. And I think becoming more methodical about these smaller sort of bite-sized ways to network, which arguably can actually be more impactful, help you make bigger strides, right? Because planting all these small seeds at the end of the day creates your ability to build on your future, forest, really. And so, you think about these small bites or bits of networking, right? One-on-one meetings, setting up in-person or virtual coffee chats, even as a student, simply, going to your professor's office hours, right? And talking about the class and diverse topics and pushing your limits on, how you're thinking about things. BRG groups, business resource groups, even classes that are you take in order to help you develop certain skill sets. And this goes for, students, this goes for executives, but in the forms of let's say public speaking, right? So you're networking at all times, and these non-labeled networking, they have so much value, right? Because you're gaining different perspectives, you're expanding your business network, you get out of your comfort zone, which helps you become more transformational in your mindset. It helps you gain confidence, feel a deeper connection with humanity, which we are not empty souls. We do not do well in isolation. I mean, if the pandemic taught us anything, and history, right? And so it's very important to sort of reflect back on how you are networking. And you might actually be doing a lot of it and not know and not giving yourself the credit that you should be. I was reading an article in The Economist along those lines, titled "The Vital Art of Talking to Strangers." And it states, in there, and it's so true, how we in life are conditioned to sort of steer away from strangers. When we are children, stranger danger, we don't talk to strangers. As we go into adolescence and young adulthood, we are now exposed to, very emotional feelings, and we're dealing with life. We're not really taught mental fitness or how to deal with, relationship building and conflict and dealing with failures and now we're formulating perhaps some unconscious bias based on, our experiences. Adulthood comes around, and, we're managing households and dependents. And this doesn't come shy of also continuing your education, building your career. And now in such a vast digital age, there's also a lot of information, a lot of disparate and strong opinions. And it's creating almost a strong divide amongst people, which these are real challenges that we need to address in today's workplaces, if not just generally. It's almost like we have to relearn how to communicate. We have forgotten the notion, I think, in society, it's getting a little lost, that you do not have to agree with each other in order to respect each other, and how important diversity of mind and really observing how others' perspectives are, how they process things, how they make decisions, helps you evolve as an individual. I break networking into sort of two pillars. Pillar one is what I call scheduled, and pillar two is unscheduled. Pillar one, the scheduled one-on-ones, the coffee chats, etc. Be a little more methodical. I teach my students on really understanding the why behind the meeting or setting up the meeting before diving into what you would normally do, which is look up each other's backgrounds, identify what's common, right? So you can start a conversation, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think putting the why down helps you create value, helps you create purpose, and also helps shift the way you have the conversation to maybe a topic that you really want to breach on, or something that you're trying to get a different perspective on. It's very valuable, and I would definitely recommend it. The non-scheduled meetups. Let's talk about this for a second, because there are no rules. And we create all these like societal rules, and that's the other problem, right? Like we become adults, and then there's all these social norms and judgment that we're scared of, and we fear rejection and failure and etc. It's almost like no reservation. Like we got to get it, get that out of our mind, because that isn't what we should be focused on. And practice is good, and practice in public spaces. Talking to strangers in a networking sense does not mean only your coworkers. When you're at a coffee shop, when you're in public places like the airport, right? Dog parks, I don't know, playgrounds. There's so many ways to engage in conversations. And I'm not saying engaging in deep conversations. Like these are just, practice ways to, help you ease maybe the anxiety of approaching strangers, how you start up conversations, your body language. There's so many things, so many factors that'll help you with. But I definitely recommend some of those tips. And there are 3 books in the article that it talks about that I've actually read. Hello Stranger, which is a really good book. But there's a book called Hello Stranger by Will Buckingham, The Power of Strangers by Joe Cohan, and the 3rd book is Fractured by John Yates. Very good recommendations. The article is linked as well if you want to read further into the article. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about my pick of the week. As a solopreneur, I have been a little more focused on creating efficiencies and automation in my life. I've been using a lot of AI tools, and a few months ago, I ran across, as I was networking, a very innovative and inspirational leader by the name of Don Harms. Don found a gap as a C-suite executive in creating more efficiencies and effectiveness between himself and his executive assistant. So then he created his own platform and tool called Emmre. Emmre is life-changing. It helps bring dedicated communication channel to executives and their EAs, close the loop on feedback, daily prioritizations, question management. It removes a lot of the gray and ambiguity and the day-to-day management, which is helping me with, having a virtual assistant and not being in the same time zone. It's really helped us be very effective, very efficient, move at a faster pace, less assumptions, and it's been very productive. Thank you, Don, for helping us close the gap. I've linked Don and Emmre. It's definitely a tool worth checking out. My friends, I am going to leave us with a quote today that is super fitting with everything we've talked about, by Melinda Gates, one of my faves. She has a line that she states: deep human connection is the purpose and the result of a meaningful life, and it will inspire the most amazing acts of love, generosity, and humanity. Thank you, Melinda, for those words. My friends, happy networking this week. Have an amazing week. Cheers.